Okay, let's start with a puzzle. A local janitor passes away and, to everyone's shock, leaves millions of dollars to charity. At the same time, a high-powered finance executive, someone you think has it all figured out, goes completely broke. How on earth does that happen? I mean, in what other field can a total amateur outperform an expert with decades of training? It just doesn't add up.
Right? You'd never hear about a guy who took one physics class in high school building a better rocket than a NASA engineer. And yet, when it comes to money, scenarios just like this happen all the time. This whole paradox points to a fundamental truth about finance that most of us, well, we completely miss it.
And that's because money is different. See, the financial industry wants you to think that managing money is a hard science, that it's just a big math problem you can solve with the right formulas and enough brainpower. But, come on, if that were true, every single mathematician would be a billionaire. And this brings us right to the heart of Morgan Housel's brilliant book, The Psychology of Money. His big idea is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly profound. He says, doing well with money has a little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. So today, we're going to unpack that idea and figure out what it really means for you and me.
All right, first up, we have to deal with a kind of uncomfortable truth. We really don't like to admit it, but a huge piece of financial success and failure isn't about skill. It's about something we have no control over: blind chance.
Let's just take the story of Bill Gates. Back in 1968, what do you think the odds were that a high school kid would have access to a computer? Housel did the math, and it was about 1 in a million. And yeah, Bill Gates just happened to be one of them.
You see, Gates went to a place called Lakeside School in Seattle. It was one of the only high schools in the entire world with a computer. He's even said it himself. If there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft. I mean, that is the literal definition of 1 in a million luck.
But here's the thing about luck. It has a dark twin: risk. Back at Lakeside, Bill Gates had a best friend, Kent Evans. They were a team, you know? They were going to conquer the world of computing together. But you've probably never heard of him. That's because before he even graduated, Kent was killed in a mountaineering accident.
And here's where it all connects. The odds of being killed in a mountaineering accident while in high school? You guessed it, roughly 1 in a million. So Gates experienced this incredible, life-changing luck. Evans experienced equally incredible, life-ending risk. It's the exact same force, just pointing in opposite directions. It really makes you wonder, right? When we see someone who's incredibly wealthy, are we actually seeing skill, or are we just looking at the result of a wild statistical coin flip?
So, this idea of risk leads us straight into the second major psychological trap. Turns out, the hardest financial skill has nothing to do with picking stocks. It's knowing when to stop moving the goalposts. It's learning the feeling of enough.
I mean, just look at the story of Rajat Gupta. This was a guy who started as an orphan in Kolkata and climbed all the way to become the CEO of McKinsey, one of the most prestigious firms in the world. By 2008, his net worth was $100 million. He had everything a person could possibly want. But $100 million wasn't enough. He wanted to be a billionaire.
So during the 2008 financial crisis, Gupta was on the board of Goldman Sachs. He gets on a private call and learns that Warren Buffett is about to save the company with a $5 billion investment. Just 16 seconds after that call ended, he picked up the phone and gave that illegal tip to a hedge fund manager. A single 16-second phone call was all it took to destroy his reputation and send him to prison.
The lesson here is just brutal, and it's crystal clear. There is no reason to risk what you have and need for something you don't have and don't need. It's just plain foolishness. If your hunger for more never ends, you're on a fast track to ruin, and it doesn't matter how much money you make along the way.
This obsession with getting more leads us right into probably the most common spending trap there is, the complete and total misunderstanding of what wealth actually is.
Housel gives it a great name: the man in the car paradox. It's the deep-seated reason we all buy status symbols. We have this flawed assumption that if we own an expensive car or a fancy watch, people will admire us, but that's just not how our brains work.
Just think about it for a second. The last time you saw a bright red Ferrari cruise by, did you think to yourself, wow, that driver must be such a cool, interesting person, or did you just admire the car?
Let's be honest. You probably didn't even notice the driver. You used that car as a kind of mirror for your own desires. Your brain immediately thinks, man, if I had that car, people would think I'm cool. It's so ironic, right? We buy stuff to signal our own worth, but everyone else just uses our stuff to fantasize about themselves.
So here's the real takeaway. We have to separate what we can see from what is real. The fancy cars, the exotic vacations, the designer clothes, that's not wealth. That's just spending. True wealth is what you don't see. It's the money that hasn't been turned into stuff yet. It's the freedom, the options, the flexibility that those unseen assets give you.
And that brings us to our final big idea today. It's about understanding the huge difference between getting money and keeping it. They are not the same game. In fact, a lot of the time, they require opposite skills.
For this, let's talk about a guy named Jesse Livermore, one of the greatest stock traders who ever lived. During the epic 1929 market crash, the one that kicked off the Great Depression, he made the modern equivalent of $3 billion in a single day. See, Livermore was an absolute genius at getting rich. That takes optimism, it takes big risks, it takes putting yourself out there. But he was terrible at staying rich. And that requires the total opposite mindset. A little bit of paranoia, a healthy dose of humility, and the constant fear that everything you've made can be taken away just as fast. He was so full of confidence from that huge win that he just kept making bigger and bigger bets until he lost it all, went bankrupt, and tragically took his own life.
And this really gets us to the ultimate point of all of this. The true value of money isn't about buying more stuff to impress people who aren't even looking at you. No, it's about buying control over your own time. The ability to wake up in the morning and say to yourself, I can do whatever I want today. That is the highest form of wealth there is.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Look at your own life. What's one spending habit you have that, if you're being truly honest with yourself, has absolutely nothing to do with logic and everything to do with psychology?